of Focus, the Fellowship of Catholic University Students. I'm delighted to be with you, and I've got some great friends with me, some colleagues. First of all, I'd like to introduce Steve Pries. Steve is the Senior Director of Philanthropy with Focus, a former Focus missionary, and a 3-time Camino pilgrim. Excited to have you with us, Steve, as always. Also to have back our friend who worked together. It's been great to see director, writer, actor, to see Emilio Estevez with us to talk about the re-release of The Way. We're so excited about that. May 16th, big date for us, right?
Indeed. Hey, thank you so much. Thank you, Curtis. Thank you, Steve. It's so great to see you both.
Yeah.
Hey, we're really excited about this re-release. We were blessed to be able to work with you, Emilio, the first time around. And you traveled the country with us, and we were able to get a lot of people to see it. A lot of people were really blessed the first time. Focus is interested in this because we trained and placed missionaries, and this film by its very nature is really missionary. It's men and women wrestling with their lives and life itself, and kind of on a path to figure out the meaning of life. And really, it's a great thing. So we're re-releasing, Emilio. Tell us a little bit about why the movie and why the re-release.
So the film is getting this sort of new lease on life. And this is after it's been in a bit of a movie jail. It was released in 2011. And you guys know, you were such a big part of our early release on this. In fact, I was with you in Denver, in the Twin Cities, in Maryland. And in many ways, it was sort of the first focus group that we had on the film. And the feedback that we got from those screenings really helped us shape the film that ultimately we ended up with. But the film was languishing in a motion to abandon rights court. It was part of a bankruptcy of another company. And so I had to rescue the movie out of this movie jail. And so now, through the help of Chris Bueno, who has a boutique company, distribution company called Ocean Avenue, he connected us with Fathom. Fathom Events is now putting the film back out on May 16th in almost 1,000 screens nationwide. And the film is, I think, and I don't know if you agree, but it's more relevant now than it was when it was first released. And I think it comes at a time. We're coming out of the pandemic. The movie feels like it's more timely now than when it first came out. And it's not just because of the pandemic, but because I think we need to feel connected. And the wonderful thing about the picture is that it celebrates community. It celebrates connection to other people. And it celebrates this idea that we don't live alone. We live in community, and the pilgrimage itself, being on the Camino, I think, and Steve will tell you, you find community whether you're looking for it or not.
No, I think it's a great point. We want to go a little deeper into the timeliness of this, and I agree with everything you're saying. I want to turn to Steve for a moment. Steve, my notes say that you're part of a younger demographic. That's got to be a relative issue because you're not a young man, but we're grateful that you're here. You've walked the Camino, but we work with really young people and want to get your perspective on the Camino, but also on the film, and to be able to sit back and say, why is this important? Why should we be gathering people on May 16th to go back into the theaters to watch this, to really have a shared experience?
Thanks, Curtis. And I am very young still, so thank you for the compliment. There are so many reasons for people to hit the theaters on May 16th to see this film. First of all, just an introduction of the Camino. I walked the Camino this past summer with friends and benefactor supporters of Focus from all over the country, and this movie was their introduction to the Camino. They had never heard of it before they saw the film. They saw the film, they heard we were doing it, and they signed up. So I think first and foremost, just an introduction to the Camino Santiago. It is one of the 3 major pilgrimages of the Catholic Church, Rome and Jerusalem being the other 2, which people know about those places, and then the Camino being the 3rd one. So it's an incredible opportunity to get out on pilgrimage. And Curtis, I was one of the extremely young people that we worked with when I was on campus. I was a college student the first time I did it. And I was going to Colorado State University, and Focus, I think, had 4 or 5 mission trips to sign up at the time. Now there's 50 different trips and all over the world, 50 different countries, over 100 trips all over the world that Focus sponsors, and the Camino is still one of them. And I remember when I signed up for this, I thought, well, I like Spain. Let's go here. I'm not sure I knew what I was getting in for. I didn't know what pilgrimage was, and I'm not sure I knew it was a walking pilgrimage, which is a critical component to the Camino because it's hundreds of miles and 20 miles a day. So to go to your question, why the young people? Why should they go see this movie? One, just to be exposed to the reality of this. But Emilio, you made a great point that we're made for community, and you're absolutely right. We are made to know God and to know one another. And that line that you said there, that you will find community on the Camino, whether you're looking for it or not. and just one story. It's so true, right? We know because we've done it. Right. There's one story that I was walking with this family, and they were from Spain. It was 3 generations. It was a grandma, her daughter, and then 4 of the kiddos who were in high school and college. And they didn't speak English, and I speak Spanish. And so we just started walking together, and I ended up, they were not a Catholic practicing family, but I gave them my rosary, and we have since stayed in touch on WhatsApp. And it was so fun to see this generation of family together, and they were a community for me over a couple days when we kept crossing paths. It was absolutely incredible. So for those reasons alone, my goodness, get out there, see the film May 16th. It's absolutely incredible.
The film does a great job of capturing pilgrimage, and really to recognize for 2,000 years, Christians have been walking on pilgrimage. And before that, for thousands of years, our Jewish brothers and sisters were making pilgrimages to the Holy Land, to Jerusalem, 3 times a year to be able to celebrate. So it's a huge human piece. And I think a lot of us haven't experienced it because of automobiles and airplanes, but to be able to out there walking. Amelia, you made the movie, you wrote the movie, to be able to sit back and say, how did this impact you as somebody on pilgrimage, working with your dad, Martin Sheen, to be able to see the amazing reality and just to watch the character development in this movie is really spectacular. How did it impact you?
Well, so I would say that the film continues to impact me on such a positive way, in that the snail mail, the DMs, the email that we continue to receive about the film, it is, some of them are testimonials, but some are also just as simple as, thank you for making this movie. You changed my life. Mm-hmm. And when you look at that as an artist, a filmmaker, a painter, whatever, when you create something that inspires someone to get off of their couch, to book their trip to Spain, to walk 500 miles and walk basically into the unknown and walk in faith that they are going to be taken care of on this pilgrimage and have a life transformation. There's nothing like that in the world. And as an artist, as an actor, as a filmmaker, storyteller, I may never have another opportunity to make this sort of an impact with anything that I do in the future. It's just been, it's had such a positive impact on so many lives, and ultimately on me, on my family, and to be able to walk Martin through these paces on this film was interesting because, Martin, we all know, is a devout Catholic. He speaks a little bit of Spanish. He's very gregarious. He's never met a stranger. And so for me, it was so difficult to say, you're a lapsed Catholic, you don't speak Spanish, you're not everybody's friend, you're a country club guy who's isolated and you love your cozy life, and you're not, you don't belong out here, and yet you do. And we will get you there, Martin. You will become yourself by the end of the movie, but you've got to trust me that I'm going to take you there. And he did. And I think as a son's gift to a father, to be able to see him in this role, and now to see it back on screen, it's just very special. It's very moving. It's very difficult for me to watch the film and not just be brought to tears every time. It wrecks me. But I'm just so terribly proud of him, and I'm wonderfully and terribly proud of the movie.
What a great reality, just to work on such a wonderful film, but also to work with your dad. What a blessing that is.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned as we get started that the world has changed since the film was first made. And we've all been through a global pandemic. We've been isolated. We have a shared experience of angst. And part of this film is the reality of life is messy, and each of the characters dealing with their own mess. And to be able to see that, what do you think is the impact of our shared global experience of COVID and the pandemic and isolation and all the things that might help people to come to this movie with new eyes?
Well, I think that it's important to grieve. And I think that we as globally, and I think certainly we as a country, have not properly grieved coming out of COVID, coming out of the pandemic. And when you look at, when the Civil War ended, Abraham Lincoln thought it was very, very important for the nation to grieve all of these lost lives, to grieve over this broken country. When the Vietnam War ended, we didn't get an opportunity to grieve. So now we have to think about, okay, the pandemic, where are we? Where are we emotionally? If we don't take the time to grieve, how will we ever process the measure of loss that we just experienced? And so I think that the movie offers that. I think, again, the movie is about, yes, the death of a son and the father learning how to grieve, but in the process, the father becomes himself through that grief. And so I think, to your point, or to your question, I think that we can only get to our true nature, our true humanity, when we are allowed to be ourselves, and we're allowed to be ourselves in our grief and in our brokenness.
No, and the part that we didn't have through COVID is not only the grief you talk about very artfully, but to be able to grieve in interaction with other people. I mean, you watch the characters play off one another. One of the things I was asked to do was, share a favorite scene, and thanks to you and to be able to rewatch the movie again in preparation for our time together here. And I was just moved with memories, but also new insights and experiences. And I say, what's the favorite scene? And there's a point where Martin Sheen, your dad, is working with the woman who plays Sarah, and they're exposing the radical brokenness that both of them are experiencing for different reasons. And it opens up a vulnerability. Up until then, he's been kind of a tough guy with regards to other people, and she's the first to kind of get in. He eventually starts to let the others in, and it's just this amazing thing. But it really struck me, and I actually think, remembering our conversations during the first release, but it really hit me as a really mature, really deep kind of Wizard of Oz type experience. They're on a path. Right. It's not a yellow brick road, but they are, and they're broken, and they're looking, and together they're finding. And that, as a Catholic, we see the ability to be able to watch that the God who is walking with each of these characters is working in them and even through their difficulties and sufferings. Steve, what was your favorite scene?
Curtis, I love the characters, and I love your analogy of the Wizard of Oz. And this is so much the modern day Wizard of Oz. And the young people that we're talking to, maybe they've never seen that movie, and so they can't compare. But this is so raw and so real. And Emilio, you may have said it earlier, it's human. And that is something that our younger generation in so many ways is missing out on, right? They're so plugged into technology and social media that they just miss the opportunity to be human and to grieve and to feel emotion and to share that emotion with others on the way and on pilgrimage. It's hard. It's a hard question. My favorite scene. I first of all, I love some of the actors. Jack from Ireland. I mean, oh my gosh, his lines are just amazing. Yost and who he is as a man, everything he's going through. And I think I can't come up with a scene, but what I love, my favorite part of the movie, and I think we do this in life, is we put up a facade, right? We put up this wall, we put up these fake emotions in order to come off one way in life. Every day in our jobs, in school, in our families, and with our friends, we just put up a false sense of who we are, maybe based on what we think they want us to be, or maybe just to protect ourselves from actually feeling those real feelings. And so we put up this facade, and each character did that in the beginning of their pilgrimage, in the beginning of their way. They all had their reasons. Why are you here? To quit smoking. Why are you here? To lose weight. And as we saw their journey progress, and when we get to the end, and I won't spoil it, but that facade breaks down because it's impossible to do the Camino and keep that up. You can't. It's too long. It's too arduous. It's a journey. It's a pilgrimage. And by the end, you get to see the realness of each one of their characters. And this last Camino, so this is my third time, this last one, we extended it a little bit and we went to Muxia. And Emilio, I sent you this picture, and I had never been there. It's this beautiful chapel right on the rocks, and the waves are crashing, and it's in the movie. And it was there that Sarah finally let go. She let go of this pain that she'd been holding on to. And it was after just experiencing it. But if I were to pick out a scene, and it's no surprise, but it would be when they get to the cathedral in Santiago, because that feeling is overwhelming. And I have not done the full Camino, the full 500 miles. I've done 200 miles twice. But when you get there, it's just a burst of emotion. You don't know whether to laugh or cry or fall on your knees or to leap for joy. And the movie portrayed it so well because each person feels it differently.
Right.
And it was so neat that you were allowed into the cathedral to hug the statue of St. James, which you can't do anymore. But to even see the tomb of St. James, this incredible apostle who went to the ends of the earth to evangelize, and to see each one of these characters, their journey really come to fruition there at the tomb of St. James and in this cathedral. So if I had to say a favorite scene, that's it. But just the transformation of the characters was really awesome.
And Steve, we were not allowed entrance to the cathedral to shoot there until 2 days before we actually filmed. And when they said you can shoot, they said you have it for 3 hours. So we thought, okay, we have 10, 12 pages of the script that takes place at the end. I said, I don't know how to shoot this in 3 hours. And that included the Portico de Gloria where Yost puts he falls to his knees. Once we got going, it also included me getting into the purple robe to pull the boat to Fumero. It's like, so now I had to design where we're going to put our cameras, where the actors are going to go. And now I had to be in the shot doing something that was so completely foreign to me. So they throw the purple robe on me. I march out there. I'm sort of looking at a complete pilgrim's mass. So everyone's there. They don't know what the heck we're doing. I didn't certainly know what I was doing. And I said, well, what do I do? And they said, just pull down on the ropes. You'll be fine. I was like, okay. So it's kind of like, I kind of march out there like I'm part of the troop. And I pulled down. It was absolute madness. I don't know how we pulled it off or how we actually got all the shots that we needed, but we did. And it was by divine intervention. That's the only way I can think of. We were being looked out over and looked over. So it was a good thing. It was a real blessing.
So cool. You did a great job doing it. Again, from the entry in and Yost falling to his knees, right, when he thought he wasn't going to throughout the movie.
And
so
Steve,
beautiful.
he didn't want to do it. Yorick, the actor, he says, no, I don't want to do this. He says, well, why aren't the other ones doing it? I said, you are the only one who can. You are it will make sense. It will be redundant if they all do it, but you're the only one who can do it, and you should do it. And he fought me all the way to where he puts his hand. He was like, well, what about my knee? Like, just please trust me. Trust me. Have faith, man.
And real quick, the Bote Fumero that you talk about, every day at noon, there's a pilgrim's mass year round for the pilgrims that arrive that day. And what Emilio mentioned is this big incenser. So at mass, maybe you've seen the priest use incense around the altar. This one is like life size. It's huge. And they swing it through the cathedral from ceiling to ceiling. And it's massive. And they do that because the pilgrims of days of old would come and they would smell so badly that they had to waft this incense through the cathedral just to get through mass. And so it's a beautiful tradition that they keep doing to this day. And it really is a cool thing that you were able to swing that. So that's awesome.
That's beautiful. Emilio, this film has been acclaimed and it's really a beautiful work of art. And we're very grateful. One of the things is it captures the heart of what it means to be on pilgrimage, but also to be a missionary. And I think about our missionaries and they're out on pilgrimage. And one of the stories I love from the life of Christ is he was a pilgrimage, walking back and forth from the Sea of Galilee to Jerusalem. And on his way one time, he goes into Samaria and he meets a Samaritan woman. And Jewish men aren't supposed to talk to Samaritan women. It's not culturally cool. And he gets into this woman's life. And it's the same thing as in the film. Her life is messy. and he's right
Yes.
there loving her, and he loves her to conversion. And so I want to ask you a question about maybe something you could say to our missionaries, and not just focused missionaries, but anybody who's out there. We're all called on mission to step into people's lives and love them because God loves them, and we should imitate God. Do you have any encouragement to the people who are watch the movie May 16th again? There's information on how to purchase tickets at the bottom of the screen. Want to make sure you go. But if you have any encouragement for folks who have seen the movie, those who are going to go to see the movie, as missionaries to step into other people's lives on pilgrimage, what are your thoughts?
I think, to your point, when you say life is messy, people are messy, and the people that teach us some of our biggest life lessons are the people sometimes that we don't want to go anywhere near, but we're called to it, and we must do the tough. We must take on the tough tasks. And so what I believe is that for your missionaries out there who may not want to step or lean into someone that they might find a little odd, a little broken, that's the time to lean in. That's the time to step in, because that person may teach you the lessons that no one else that you're going to run into could teach you. And I think that to be open to that and be accepting of everyone's brokenness, because we're so imperfect. And that is ultimately what the message of the movie is our imperfection, and the fact that, when we're pitching movies in Hollywood, oftentimes the executives will say, "Well, what's the character arc? I want to know over these 2 hours, how is the character going to mature, and how is they going to change, and I push back with this: how many people have you known in the last, I don't know, the 20 years, friends, family members, are they any different than they were 20 years ago? Are they still, or are they still that same person?" And so I would argue that people don't necessarily change. They evolve, but they don't necessarily change. And so I think what the movie talks about really at the end is that we are exactly who we're going to be. We are as broken as the next guy or girl, and that we are all loved and lovable. And so I think that, again, to your missionaries out there in the world, they may bump into people that they find objectionable, but those are the ones that we need to lean into and embrace even more so than the ones that are more obvious.
No, great. And I speak now, as somebody who runs a Catholic evangelization program, and one of the things I think that is surprising to people is they think, well, you're going to go out and tell people how to live. That's not what we're doing. We're going out and meeting them where they are and just loving them. In the scriptures, we're told by St. Paul that while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us, which means he went first. And I love I'm telling you, you're watching this film for a while and you're like, I don't even know why these people keep walking with one another. They don't actually like each other. And it's in the midst of the crevices and cracks that they start to like, okay, wait a second. I'm broken too. It's just the way they progress on this. So we're here. Well, obviously, we're talking about the movie that's going to be back in theaters on May 16th. You created the movie, wrote the movie, directed the movie, acted the movie. If you wanted to encourage somebody to join the groups that are going to be gathering all over the country, I think more than 1,000 theaters.
That's right.
What would you tell them? Why would you tell them to go see this movie on the 16th?
Because this movie is transformational. And while there are a lot of choices out there in the multiplexes now, you can go out there and see the latest Marvel movie, and there's nothing wrong with those films. But those movies often are about other worlds, other places that I don't necessarily relate to. I'm interested in doing the work on this planet and making movies about human beings, not aliens, not space creatures. I'm most, as an artist, I'm interested in the human condition. I'm interested in what makes us tick. And so for me, I would encourage people to say, to really look at that and say, if I'm tired of all the violence, if I'm tired of all these, fantastical films about things a world that I don't necessarily live in, this is a movie that you do live in. This is a story about people that you can relate to. And if you want to feel a connection to the planet, to community, this is a movie to tuck into and share with people.
No, I think that's beautifully stated, Emilio. I like to say, you mentioned Marvel, and they're amazing. And there's so many other great movies out there that are doing really well. And I always say, look, they're awesome. Go watch them. They're fun. They're entertaining. I only have two critiques. One, they're not real. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's fine if you live in fantasy, but they're not real. Yoda never existed. Your characters are superhuman. The other piece is that sometimes there's not a lot of room for God in some of these movies. And man, oh man, The Way is an invitation to not only wrestle with our humanity, other people's humanity, but also how God is willing to wrestle with our humanity and other people's humanity also. And so it's a beautiful thing for people of faith to go to. May 16th, we've got fathomevents.com or hashtag The Way the Movie. It's been scrolling at the bottom. Want to make sure you get there. You could probably go to your local theater even now and purchase the tickets. We want to make sure you get there. One night only to start, May 16th. We're really excited. Steve, it's been great to be with you. Emilio, always a delight. Thanks for spending some time with us.
Curtis, thank you, man. And thank you. It means the world to me to be able to talk about this film again and to talk about it with people who get it. I feel a little less crazy after we have these conversations. I feel, because you're independent filmmaker, you're out there, you're trying to get people to believe in you. And so thank you not only for being some of the first believers in me and in this film, but continue to support. It just it's very heartwarming, and I bless you. Thank you so much, man. It's just amazing.
Well, it's been great to partner with you back in the beginning, and also now. I really appreciated getting to understand your humanity, particularly as we spent time traveling the country the last time. Great to be back with you. Steve, again, thanks so much. Appreciate you all viewing. Please join us May 16th for The Way. God bless.
Thank you. Thank you. God bless. Thank you.